Hey everyone, in some of the last videos, we have learned the basics of Tkinter, all that we need to make an application with Tkinter. So another application that we can make using the Tkinter module is the Ciphertext application. So to actually encrypt and decrypt the message, we would use the onetimepad module, but to give it a GUI interface, we will use the Tkinter module. If you are not familiar with cryptography and Cipher, you can read about it in the description. So as I told you, we would be using onetimepad for encryption and decryption purposes. Let's import the module. Also, this might not be pre-installed, so you can just run the command pip install onetimepad. So you can write that in your terminal and you are good to go. So now we would import that module. I'll write import onetimepad. Cool. Also, let's import the Tkinter. I don't want to write Tkinter dot over and over, so I will just import everything from Tkinter, and this is how we have always done it. From Tkinter import star, and then you get the window. That is your GUI interface. You will write win equals tk, and also we can give it a title. Write win.title encryption. Cool. So what I'd be doing is I would create a function for encryption. Decryption is similar, I would discuss it, but to execute it is your task. So coming back to the encryption part, I should have an entry box for entering my message that I want to encrypt or encode, and another display box for the encrypted value to be displayed. Also, I would need encryption button as the function should only be called after entering a value. So let's first create the entry fields and their labels. We will have two labels, one for entering the original message and one for the encrypted message. So if you couldn't follow what I said, you will just understand as I write it. So I'll first have my variable for the first label for entering the message, which is OGMSG. So it's just a short for original message, and I'll write label. Where do I want this label? I want it on my window, so I'll write win. And what is the text that should be displayed in this label? It is enter message. Cool. Then I'll put it in a grid. I'll write OGMSG dot grid in order to display it. Where do I want this message or label to be displayed or to be placed? That is on row 10th and column 1. Working with row and column is more easy to visualize, so that's why I've used row and column. And I'll get another label that is for getting the encrypted message, so I'll write EMSG equals label win dot text equals encrypted message. And then I'll put it in a grid again, EMSG dot grid. And relative to the position of the other label, I'll put the row equal to 11 and column equal to 1. Okay, so there goes my label, and the label would be the text that is already displayed on the screen. So now we will create the text box using entry widget of Tkinter. You might note that we haven't used the onetimepad yet. We will use it only in the encryption function. So I want two entries, one for entering and another for displaying the result. So I'll have E1 equals entry, and where do I want it? I want it on the window. Let's keep everything simple and try to understand what's happening. Then I'll put it in a grid again. I'll place it. I'll write E1.grid and row equals 10. Now since you have placed one object somewhere on the screen, relative to that you can arrange the other objects also. Okay, so I'll write row equals 10 and column equals 2. Okay, and similarly I'll have the another entry e2 equals entry and win and e2.grid row 11 column 2. Okay, now finally I'd be creating the encryption button, so let me write it down. I'll write encryption button equals button and it is win. I want it on the window, so I'll write win, and text should be let it be encryption because that's the function that would be carried out. Background color, let it be gray, it's a normal button, and foreground, let it be black. And now for the command, I'll just leave it blank because I have not defined the function yet, and I'll pack this encryption button. I'll write encryption button dot grid row equals 13 column equals 2. Fine. Now I'll write win dot main loop. Now let's just define this encrypt message function. So I'll just go above a little, scroll up a little, and I'll write def encrypt message. And I'll have this variable message, which will be the original message that would be encrypted, that you want to encrypt. And where will I get it from? I'll get it from my E1, the first entry that I'd be making. And how do you get that in Tkinter? You can write message equals E1 dot get and brackets. And then to encrypt this message, I'll have another variable that will hold this value. I'll have Ciphertext equals onetimepad dot encrypt. This is an inbuilt function. It will automatically encrypt the message that has been given as an argument. I'll write message because that's the original message that I want to encrypt, and I'll write random. This random gives you what kind of a key you want, so I just can have any random kind of key. I hope you know what key is for a ciphertext. If you don't, please read the description. Now I'll insert this value in the second entry that I created, E2. So how will I do that? I'll write E2 dot insert and 0, ciphertext. The 0 in the argument is for the starting position of this ciphertext from where you want this ciphertext to be displayed. So the command for the encryption button would be encrypt message. I'll just type that down. And now we are good to go. Let's check this once and encrypt the messages. So I have the window now. Let me enlarge it a little. And I will just enter some random text or message. Let me write hello, and I should get something encrypted, some kind of code for this hello. Okay, so I'll write hello and I'll click on the button encryption. So here I go. I have some code, some encrypted message, some cipher for hello. So that's pretty much it about this program. For decryption, you can use the decrypt function in onetimepad module, and you can carry out pretty much the same what we did in this application. Thank you.